Oh, thank you, Julie, for your response. Eliminate waste. Wonderful. Well, those are all wonderful reasons to learn more about EidleFree and get kids and students involved in this work. So thank you so much for sharing. So our webinar purpose today is to share information about Beaverton's Safe Routes to School EidleFree resources and campaign, and to learn more about the Safe Routes to School media toolkits, which I'll show you a little demonstration of where to find those on the website later on in this meeting. So our agenda today, we have a wonderful speaker here, and I will introduce her shortly. We have Q&A and discussion time after we have our speaker present, and then we have a resource highlight, which will be our media toolkit highlight. And finally, we'll end with announcements. So our speaker, Julia Sanders, will be speaking today about Beaverton School District's EidleFree campaign and resources. She is the Assistant Safe Routes to School Coordinator, and we're so excited to have her here today. Julia, would you like to share your slides with us now?
Great, sure thing.
Thank you.
All right, can everyone see that okay? Great, all right. Hello, everyone, and happy Earth Month. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm really excited to be presenting. Our webinar today is going to focus on sharing an EidleFree toolkit that was created by Safe Routes to School in the Beaverton School District for our student-led green teams. In addition, I'm also going to detail the process we went through to build strong partnerships with our green teams, which are environmental groups that mainly meet after school. And I also want to talk about why those partnerships are so important to our program's success. So just to tell you a bit about who I am, my name is Julia Sanders, and I'm the Assistant Coordinator for Safe Routes to School in the Beaverton School District. I've been in this position for about a year and a half, and I absolutely love getting to be a part of this work. I do most of our communications, including all of our graphics and promotional materials. So if you ever come across something we put out on social media and you want to use it for yourself, feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to switch out our logo for another one if you see something you like. And before working for Safe Routes, I was a classroom teacher and then a STEM specialist at Sitten Elementary School in North Portland for about 10 years. And so my teaching experience has been really helpful in my work with Safe Routes, as it gives me an inside perspective on school culture and teacher workloads. And in addition, one of my passions is curriculum design. So I've been able to create a new pedestrian education curriculum for us, as well as several education lessons for our green teams, which I'll be sharing with you today. And all of these materials are things that you'll be able to access to once the presentation's over. All right, so a little bit about our agenda. We're going to start off with looking at some strategies for initiating contact with green teams and their advisors. We're then going to take a look at some of the green team lessons that I designed to lead into a student action. And then after we take some time to explore the actions that the lessons build to, we're going to take an in-depth look at the EidleFree campaign and the toolkit that we designed to help those groups get started. And we're going to wrap up by going over a document I made for you all that contains several coordinator resources. And it should be helpful if you choose to pursue partnerships with environmental groups in your schools. And then at the end, there will be time for any questions that might come up. So be sure to write them down and keep track of any thoughts you have. And all right. Sorry, get my slide working here. There we go. So as I mentioned at the end of my presentation, I'll go over the coordinator resources that I have for you. And throughout the presentation, I'll reference these different resources as well. There are also links to everything within the presentation, so I recommend looking at those after I'm done. And so I also really want to make some time for talking about just the work building these partnerships. So when I started working for Safe Routes last year, I saw that one of our biggest needs was that we lacked a reliable group of school volunteers for organizing our events and running our walking school bus programs. I think that's something we can all relate to, right? And we were able to find parents and teachers to take on some of this work, but it was clear that our volunteers were often already burning the candle at both ends, and adding a new volunteer duty to their busy schedules tended to be a little bit of a hard sell. And the other problem we came across is that as students moved on to middle school, our parent champions in elementary schools also moved on to middle school, meaning that every few years our programs had to start from scratch, which makes them less sustainable from year to year. And so as I thought about how we could address these problems, I realized that a big part of why it was so challenging to recruit volunteers is that our work was often viewed as separate from the school culture as a whole. And our programs and events were successful, but often this was due to the hard work of our team rather than our volunteer group. So we felt like we needed to find some strategies for shifting the school culture so that our work felt internally motivated by the community rather than imposed by an external entity like Safe Routes. As I considered how we could build up our base of invested volunteers in order to accomplish this, I realized that by tapping into school organizations that already exist, we could potentially solve many of the problems we were facing. And student-led environmental groups or green teams came to mind as the perfect school organization for us to partner with. Not only do we share many of the same goals, I knew from past experience as a teacher that the adult advisors leading these groups were often hard-pressed to find projects that were meaningful and appropriate for young kids. And that there was a good chance that they would be receptive to the idea of collaborating with us if we made the process approachable for the advisors and presented our partnership as a way to make their work easier rather than adding more to their plate. And so making contact is so important as you make contact with these groups that you're keeping track of who you're interacting with. So going into these partnerships, we always have the secondary goal of connecting with the kids and adults who will be our future volunteers. So by working with green teams, we're able to not just connect with the students, but to connect to the right students. These are kids who are often extremely passionate about the environment, and they often have adults at home who inspired that passion. So these are the perfect people to connect with as they're already invested in lowering carbon emissions and they'll understand the importance of our work. Because of this, it's ideal if you can keep track of the connections you make through your work with the green teams so that the next time you have an event to organize, you'll already have a list of names and emails of people who care about our goals. So using a document to gather contact information about each green team makes it easier to communicate and build your network of potential volunteers. And let's see, to make that process easier, one of the things that I'm including is a green team tracker, which is a spreadsheet that you can use to track all of the details about each group you work with, as well as keeping a list of contact information for the adults and students that you interact with. So as you work on locating your green teams and finding their advisors, I recommend beginning with an internet search for your middle and high school groups, as student groups and secondary education are usually listed online. For elementary groups, which tend to be who I work with the most, the easiest way to get the information you'll need would be to send out a group email to all of your elementary secretaries. And getting the email addresses for the advisor is the most important piece, but I also ask them for the day and the time and the location that the group meets, as well as the number of members. And this can be really helpful for coordinating lessons and actions, and it also gives you a sense of how active the group is. More active groups have the biggest impact on the school culture, so prioritizing those groups for your first few lessons is a good idea if you want to get the most bang for your buck. And the tracker will also help you remember which lessons you've taught to each group, what program the school already has in place. the school walkshed, regional quintile, and the Oregon Green School status, and also past walk and roll participation. And also if they've already received pedestrian and bike education. So keeping track of that is a really good way to just get a snapshot of the school before you start working with the group so that you know what each group's goals might be. So Green Team advisors tend to struggle with finding activities that are age appropriate, meaningful, and don't require too much of their personal time. So coming up with activities after a full day of teaching can become pretty daunting. So offering to teach a lesson and help launch an action is usually very welcome. Using the Green Team lesson menu to present your offerings can help entice advisors, and it gives them some choice on the approach. So I always send out this menu for to every group, and the advisor and I work on kind of coming up with a plan for how we want to present the material and what action we'd like it to build into. And I usually suggest from the outset that the lesson lead into a student action like an idle-free campaign or a student-led walking school bus. And that way the advisors understand that we're really wanting to build a partnership rather than just a one-off lesson. And it can really be a way to keep building that relationship. And to help you, I'm providing the lesson menu itself, which is a PDF infographic with links. And I'm also sharing an email template for your initial email to the advisors so that you have a good starting point, and you don't have to come up with that all on your own. So let's see, the first lesson I wanted to show you is our, I'm gonna head too far, sorry. There we go. So the first lesson I wanted to tell you about that's designed to lead into a student action is called Greenhouse Gases at Our School. And this is what I typically begin with because it is a really good way to introduce myself and also the work of Safe Routes. So this lesson introduces Safe Routes to School, and it explains each of the 6 E's so that students get an idea of who we are as an organization and why a partnership might be a good idea. It also includes a video from NASA that was made for kids to explain what greenhouse gases are and why they can impact global temperatures. This lesson also addresses car idling and what makes it harmful so that students really get a good idea of why an idle-free campaign might be something they would do. And finally, this lesson also introduces the idle-free campaign and toolkit to the group so that they can start thinking about what they would like to do for their own actions. And a lot of the time I will link that lesson with this one here, the greenhouse gas experiment. And this lesson provides students with a hands-on science experiment to learn about how greenhouse gases impact climate. It provides some background knowledge about greenhouse gases. The students conduct an experiment to find out if trapped carbon dioxide in a jar causes an increase in temperature. And this is just a fun way for them to really be interacting with the science rather than just thinking about it and understanding it conceptually. They're really working with it. So it requires 3 jars, a thermometer, some vinegar, baking soda. So it's a really simple experiment. I will say that some groups have had mixed results. So test it out beforehand to make sure your thermometer is sensitive enough for it to really work. And this is also a lesson that you can pass on to the advisor to do without you. That's why I have a lesson plan included with the presentation so that you can send all of the information on to the advisor if you'd like. All right, and another lesson I wanted to tell you about is the inquiry-based math lesson that I have. And it's a good way to get students to think deeply about the impacts of car idling. It's inquiry-based, so that means it's student-driven and open-ended. And I use a method called SOL in this lesson, or self-organized learning environments. And this teaching method was developed by Sugata Mitra, who won the TED Award in 2013 for his presentation on the concept. So I recommend checking that out if you're interested. At the start of this lesson, there's a slide for educators that has links to all of the videos about SOL so that if you want to understand the teaching method, then you can. And students are given at least one very hard question. And it's one you want to find a question that even adults would have a hard time answering without researching first. And then students break into groups of 2 to 5 people, which they select, and they can move in between their groups too. So it's really a lot of student autonomy with this. And the groups work to answer the question using just the internet and no adult support, aside from encouragement. And even though that sounds like they would just not come up with anything, it's amazing what they come up with. They end up going way deeper than they would if I'm just presenting the information. And so it really puts the learning in the hands of the students. And it tends to be a little bit messy and loud sometimes because you don't know where they're going to go with the information and where they're going to find their the facts. But it also allows for so much autonomy that students are really engaged, and I'm always impressed with what they come up with. So the big questions that I include in this lesson are: how much gas money would a family save if they stopped idling in the car line in one school year? How many pounds of carbon emissions would a family keep out of the air by not idling in the car line in one school year? And how many pounds of carbon emissions would the whole school community keep out of the air if all the cars stopped idling in the car line? And so what's great about this lesson is not only are they learning this, after it concludes, I write down the numbers and I can use those for promoting the event as well. And it's a great way to link our learning to the event. And another lesson that I like to do, I save this one for my older students, like high school or middle school students, or sometimes with elementary groups that are really active and really passionate. And for this lesson, the students watch a video of Greta Thunberg's full speech to the world leaders at the UN Climate Action Summit in 2019, which is the famous speech where she literally shames all of the world leaders in attendance. And it's a surprising speech because it's so unusual to see a child take such a scolding tone with such important people. And after watching the video, we discuss what makes it a powerful speech to help the students understand the unstoppable strength of young voices. So I asked the students, do you ever feel angry that adults aren't doing more to fight climate change? Do you ever, were you surprised by the tone that Greta had in her speech? And what is something the Green Team could do to make our planet cleaner and teach the adults how to do better? And so this is a way for them to really get that even though they're young, in some ways their voices are going to be more powerful on this topic than adult voices. And so it's a way to really get them to feel empowered and feel like they can take action. And I often use this lesson as a lead up to running a walking school bus with the group. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the actions that we do after our lessons. So one of the student actions that these lessons can build into is creating a walking school bus program run by the Green Team. So students sign up to be leaders and their parents attend with them. And to introduce the concept of a walking school bus, I use this presentation, which includes a video that I created that explains walking school bus programs and just what the concept is. I'm including this lesson as well for you guys, and also the video in English and in Spanish, just in case you'd like to use it. And that brings me to the action that we're focusing on today, which is our Idle-Free Toolkit for the Idle-Free campaign. And our toolkit really streamlines the process of running an Idle-Free campaign. The idea is that the students in the Green Team really own this project, while the adults act as more facilitators. So this is really important because for many students, this will be the first time that they've participated in any form of activism. So if done right, it can be incredibly empowering for them, and it can get them kind of inspired to continue that work. One of my favorite quotes from a Green Team student was, "I didn't think the adults would listen to us, but they really did. It was surprising." So they really get to see that their voices aren't meaningless, that they do have some power and can make some changes. And these are just a few photos videos. This is from Heighton Elementary, where I worked to do an idle-free campaign last year. And you can see some of the students participating in the learning and then also tracking the data and holding up their signs. All right, so I want to take more of an in-depth look at our toolkit so that you can see all of the different resources that are in there. So inside our toolkit, we provide a planning tool, materials for a poster contest, a suite of graphics for promoting the event, a newsletter article to share with families, a parent and student pledge form, a script for an idle-free skit, an audit data tracker, suggestions for the driver contact event, and other videos and resources. So as part of our planning tool, one of the things we provide is a timeline to help groups stay on track for a successful event. A lot of these events should be planned out a few weeks ahead of time, and so this really helps them stay on track so that they're not feeling totally lost or bogged down. And it lays out exactly what needs to happen leading up to the driver contact event. And as part of the planning page for each, we have a planning page for each week so that the jobs can be assigned to students at the beginning of their planning session. And the materials are listed at the bottom as well so that they know what they'll need each week. And this is a good way for students to just sign up for a job, and you can make sure that everything is really covered for the event. So we have a page for each week, like I said. So going out to 2 weeks out and then getting closer to the event, we have it for the actual days that they're going to be doing their actions, the week of action. And having students sign up ahead of time for the different roles just makes the planning a lot smoother and helps the advisor not feel so bogged down with all of the details. We also have the poster contest. So this is a really easy way to get the whole school involved in the idle-free campaign. They can put up this simple poster around the school, or teachers can present it to their classes. And then what I suggest is that you post as many of the posters as you want around the school and then put up a ribbon on the one that wins. I also created a suite of graphics to use. And so this is a really good way to promote the event. It includes social media graphics in English and in Spanish, a Facebook banner in English and Spanish, and also a printable bilingual sign that they can use during their campaign. And I suggest putting the signs up all over the place when they're doing it. Make those cars really see what's going on. And this is a newsletter article, and it's a great way for secretaries to easily publicize the event in the school newsletter and on social media or in a parent communication app. And by providing the text and graphics and a suggested date for sharing, you can make the secretary's job easy, which means they're more likely to share out what you provide. So we also have a pledge form, which is a great way for students and parents to make a promise that they'll try to be idle-free in the car line. This is just a nice way to get some accountability and remind families of the campaign so that everyone knows what's going on. So some schools choose to do an idle-free skit, which students perform either at an assembly or in individual classrooms, or we also have students who have made videos. These skits are really engaging for the students and get them jazzed about supporting the campaign. It's a great way for everybody to just get really excited. We've had student videos that are also wonderful because then I can share them out on social media and they get a lot of views because there's cute kids delivering the information. So we also provide a script in case students don't want to write their own or they don't have time. It's just a cute way for them to present their campaign to the school. And in addition, we also have a data tracker. So before sending out any promotional information, we have students take data in the car line just to see how many cars are idling, how many are not. And then they also take data after their campaign has concluded. And what's nice about that is they can look at the data and see how effective it was. And they can also present that to their classmates, or as a green team, they can go around the school and share out how successful their campaign was. It's a really great way for them to see the meaning in their work. And it's also a really awesome math lesson for everyone. It's sometimes hard to find math lessons that are that real life experiences that you can look at and use math to understand them. So it's a really great lesson to use that data. And for the actual driver contact event, we want to make sure that it's run really carefully, and that students understand their role and they know what to do in tricky situations. We don't want any students to feel uncomfortable or to be put in harm's way. So they will be operating near traffic, and they may encounter grumpy adults. So one thing we do is we provide vests for any school that's doing this, so that they can wear a safety vest while they're out there. And we also want to make sure students know what to do with any grumpy adults that they might encounter. So we make this guide to really make sure everyone knows what to do and can feel safe in their role. And in addition, we also have a few other suggestions just to make the driver contact event successful and fun. So we recommend bringing a Bluetooth speaker, having some fun music to listen to, using those safety vests, and also using vehicle flyers that you can give to drivers who will accept them. And also be sure to take a lot of photos so that we can share those out on social media and get even more publicity. And I really try to suggest that we keep it positive vibes only. So some students will want to go confront drivers who are not turning their engines off and give them a lecture. But sometimes that's not the best situation for a student to be in. So if a driver isn't participating, I usually suggest that they just kind of ignore them. They're seeing the signs, they know what's going on. So that's a way that we can make sure students aren't getting into situations that are uncomfortable for them. And we also provide in the toolkit, we have we have these tickets that students can give out if they want. Some schools choose not to, and you can also just give it to any driver. It explains why we're doing what we're doing, and why idling can be harmful. And we want to make sure, again, that they're not giving these out to anyone who's grumpy, because we don't want them interacting with adults who are in not the best mood. And we also include just a few extra printables and videos in case schools want to use those. So we have an educational video, a student created video, which is really cute. We also have a video on what the greenhouse effect is, and just the printables or other posters that schools might want to use. So our goal with all of this is not just the idle-free campaign, but also to have a shift in culture and a pool of engaged volunteers at every school. So by really building these partnerships with green teams, then we're really able to have access to those volunteers, a direct line to them. So this is a great way to get that built up. And so the resources that I'm going to share with you, you'll all get this PDF. So you'll have the idle-free campaign toolkit. You'll also have the introduction email template, the Green Team Tracker, which tracks all of the different green teams and the schools, the Green Team lesson menu, and also the lessons. So greenhouse gases at our school, greenhouse gas experiment, the inquiry-based math lesson, empowering students, a call to action, start a walking school bus, and then the 2 videos that introduce the walking school bus. And I also have my contact information, so please feel free to reach out if you have questions or you need any ideas. And with that, I am available for any questions.
Thank you so much, Julia. I do believe we have a question in the chat box. Scroll up and find it.
I think I saw a question, but Nora said it'll get answered during the Q&A portion, if that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now we're in the Q&A. It was Jessica Fletcher. So I don't know, Jessica, if you want to unmute and
Yeah,
to your
that's the
question.
one.
Maybe she's in a place where she can't unmute. So the question is Beaverton recording emissions results from schools before and after?
Each group is recording it and sharing that information with us. And then I have a graphic that I usually share out that just, if we do like it'll share out the data. So for the inquiry-based math lesson, I have one that I share out. And then at the end, they can share out how effective their campaign was. Yeah. Any other questions?
Nicole, go ahead and then I'll ask mine later.
Hi, I just wondered who judges your poster contest for the winners?
Yeah, it depends on how the green team wants to run it. It's really based, however they want to approach it. So the green team itself could do that, or if they wanted to pass that off to an adult or maybe the secretary or a teacher or the advisor, they can do that as well. Kind of depends on how much time they have available. Some groups only meet once a month. Some groups are meeting every week. So if they're a weekly group, then that might be something that they can take on themselves. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Looks like Sean has a question as well.
I was wondering if, kind of continuing on the first question, are you using any kind of a sensor to track the emissions, like the level of the gases around the school? Anything like that?
No, but that would be a really cool addition. Do you know where to find something like that?
I know that there are out there, but they are
Yeah.
not inexpensive. So that's what I was wondering, if you had one that we could share, maybe.
Ooh, yeah. I'll look into that. That's a cool idea.
I had a question about what has been helpful for getting into schools. It sounds like the green teams maybe are meeting after school or something like that, but it also sounded like some of your lesson plans could easily be integrated into existing classes or into the school day. Maybe I'm not understanding and that is what's happening. But yeah, curious if you are integrating into the school day or if it's after school, and what has been helpful for getting the excitement from schools to because so often Safe Routes is outside of the school day or at special events or on the way to school. So yeah, what's been helpful, if anything, for integrating into the school day?
Right. Yeah. So it depends on the green team. Some of them meet during the school day. I've had some that just meet during lunch, and they all eat lunch together. So usually the best way to integrate back into the school as a whole is having kids present what they found. So presenting their data is a really good way to get into the classroom. Some classrooms, some older groups too, some 4th and 5th grade classrooms I've had have interest in doing it as a grade level. So there's different ways you can approach it depending on what the school wants and how involved they are. And when you're working during the school day, you have, so teachers have, mandated minutes, a lot of them, not every school, but Title I schools especially have a pretty strict schedule. So it's harder for them to fit us in because we're this extra thing kind of. That's why the green teams have been, it's been so successful, I think, is because teachers don't really know what to teach during that time. They're not given a curriculum, and there's no mandated minutes or anything like that. So they have more flexibility. So that's been it's been really helpful to get in at that slot. But also, I mean, all of these lessons are standards based. So it's something that they could work into their lessons, and it would still address state standards. Yeah. But yeah, it's always good to work back with the whole school in some way. That's a really great connection to make. Yeah. Did that answer your question okay?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, sounds like having students like share with the school community about what they're learning and finding is helpful for getting integrated into the whole school.
Yeah, yeah. And if they're doing a skit for each classroom, that's also a really great way for just the whole school to feel like they're part of what's happening. And the student skits are just, the kids love seeing, especially older students, perform. So, yeah. Any other questions?
I have a quick question. So in total, how long do you think it takes from the time that you recruit students to the time that the campaign happens and you spread the word about it? How long is the whole entire process?
So it kind of depends, because sometimes I've had a shorter chunk of time, or sometimes they've had a goal of wanting to do their campaign in a certain week. So we can do it kind of faster if we need to, but I think ideally 3 to 4 weeks out is a good amount of time, because they have time to really get into the content of learning about greenhouse gases, and also that's time for them to get their baseline data, because you want to do that before the campaign really starts. But again, if they only have a really limited chunk of time, you can make it something that's a faster process. There's a lot of the details in there they don't have to do. You can kind of tailor it to work with whatever group you're working with and what time they have available. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's good to know.
Sure thing.
All right, if there's no other questions, we'll continue on with showcasing some awesome resources that you can all take advantage of. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and show those and show you where to find them on the website. Thank you again, Julia. That was a fantastic presentation and really good information for people to utilize.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, I'm just sharing my screen. All right, so I would love to walk you through how to find the media toolkits on our website. These are fantastic resources that include social media, plan posts, and Strider and Viv illustrations and banners that you can put on presentations and resources for the students that you work with. So if you head over to the resource tab and then click on toolkits, it'll take you to a page that says media toolkits on it. So you want to drop that down and click on the link. And then once you click on the link, a Dropbox file will open. And then you can take a look at all these files where the assets are organized by month. And we also have those Strider and Viv illustrations available. So if you just click on, for instance, Strider and Viv illustrations, and then go to April Earth Day, you can find one of the really cute graphics and push download, and it'll download to your computer. And then you can utilize that image within your resources or within a PowerPoint presentation. And I just want to highlight that these are there for you to take advantage of and definitely utilize these fantastic resources. So thank you so much for giving me some time to talk about those real quick. And I'm going to jump back over to our PowerPoint presentation, where I'll show you the list of announcements. So let me jump back over there. Okay, so our statewide announcements. As you all know, this month is Earth Month, and I hope you have wonderful events planned. And if not, it's not too late. I mean, we still have a few weeks left in April, and it's just a great opportunity to advocate for our planet and supporting environmental related issues. And then we have our ODOT Safe Routes to School Competitive Construction Grant. Our Part 2 opens on May 6th. So if you applied for Part 1, please just keep in mind that Part 2 is opening up soon and will close on July 31st. The ODOT Innovation Mobility Program microgrants, the cycle 2 is open until November 29th. This is a grant program that helps underserved, historically underserved communities with active transportation infrastructure and planning. So highly recommend that you look at that and utilize that resource. And then we have Walk and Roll May Challenge all month long with special celebrations on National Bike and Roll to School Day on May 8th. Please order your incentives before like May 1st so that they can be shipped out to you before National Bike and Roll to School Day on May 8th. And then our May Hub meetings. A lot of the information that Julia shared with us today is really going to be pivotal for us to talk more about during our hub meeting in the month of May. So we're going to be talking about Safe Routes to School integration into schools and curriculum and how we can utilize our Safe Routes to School materials and resources and make sure that they are becoming integrated into the curriculum that teachers are teaching and that we can support their lessons with our resources. And then our Safe Routes to School partnership, they are having some webinars in April and May. One of them's actually tomorrow. Highly recommend if you have time to join and register, and I will include those links in my follow-up email later today, as well as the resources that Julia mentioned. And then our May webinar is going to be on May 21st from 11 to 12:30. As you can see that it's a little bit longer. That's because we are doing a screening of the Motherlode documentary. So that's going to be a wonderful documentary to come and listen and learn from. So please register for that if you're available. And then OATS and the ODOT Safe Routes to School annual in-person statewide meeting is June 5th through 7th. And our Safe Routes to School annual meeting is on June 7th. The Eventbrite link will come out soon for you to register for the annual meeting if you're available to attend. And then the National Safe Routes to School Conference is October 22nd through 24th. And that's just something to keep in mind. And registration will be opening up later this month, I believe. So that's all the announcements I have to share today. And I really appreciate you being here and Julia for speaking about Beaverton's Idle Free campaign resources and materials. So thank you so much. And I think we're ending a little bit earlier today. So please have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy the weather. All right.
Thank you, Shelby and Julia.
Thank you, Nora.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lizette.
Thank you, guys.